Making the big transition from overtime elite to the Perth Wildcats of the NBL, Alex Sarr quickly separated himself as one of the class's best prospects and eventually a #1 pick contender. At a listed 7'1" with a 7'5" wingspan, Sarr has a lot of what you want from a modern big. He's a great athlete who's scheme versatile and high impact defensively, and though the offense is still a work in progress, he found a way to produce even in a winning situation that didn't offer the most abundant number of minutes or usage. Now, there are still some key questions and things that he'll have to improve upon, but it's hard not to like what he brings towards the top of this class. Starting on the defensive end, Sarr's combination of athleticism, versatility, and rim protection make him one of the premier defenders in this class and someone with a path to be among the best in the NBA. He's agile and moves very well at that size, able to flip his hips quickly and stick with smaller players and creators, and also cover ground to defend multiple actions on a given possession. And even the times where he is beat, he has the tools to seamlessly recover back into plays and make shots difficult on closeouts. He's just one of those players who has the ability to be quote-unquote everywhere on a given possession, covering ground, communicating, and cleaning up mistakes. Sarr's pick and roll defense and ability to execute multiple coverages there is another way he makes a big impact defensively. He can play to the level of the screen, keeping pull-up threats at bay and players in front. He does well in drop, using his frame and length to deter and contest while backpedaling, and can get to spots some other bigs just can't. But what always gets people excited is what he can do on switches, using that mobility to contain many guards and wings out in space and bring an added level of versatility to a defense. Now, he's obviously not going to step into the league as like Bam Adebayo and a guy that you're just comfortable switching on any and everyone, and there will probably always be players who will be able to take advantage of him in some way, and schematically you want to keep him near the basket for his rim protection as much as possible, but he undoubtedly has a unique ability at that size to stick with a wide range of players on the perimeter, and I think as he continues to improve some of his footwork, he'll be even better. Now, he did have some prior issues with his positioning at times, and I do think the drop can still be cleaned up in a lot of ways, but the improvement he's made in that aspect and the recognition and communication he's shown give me confidence he'll continue on that trajectory.
Izgubljena lopta, domaćin 3, gosti 5 prekršaja.
Margin. Joel Peterson, Liam Santa Maria, Pete Hawley, Joe Healy, John Casey with you. Great to have your company for this Game 3, the winner to face Melbourne United in the Championship Series. Here's Milton Doyle going to work, trying to create more magic. Sarr forces his comfort zone, goes back to Ditch. Dances into the paint.
Domaćini. McDonald. Dobar ulazak pod koša.
Mudronja napada Sarra, Mudronja nije
6 poena, 4 skoka, 2 blokade.
Harlan, he goes right at Sarr and Sarr.
Još jedna sjajna partija, njega naravno prosjek ni malo.
Now, in addition to that, Sarr is also a true presence as a rim protector, and it could end up the most important aspect of his game. It of course goes back to those physical and athletic tools that allow him to get the shots, but he also has good timing and instincts in close, and did it while avoiding foul trouble and frequently being used as that low man or help side guy. He averaged 1.5 blocks in about 17 minutes a game and posted a block percentage right at 8, which was first in the NBL among minute qualified players and on par with the likes of what Daniel Gafford, Nick Claxton, and Evan Mobley posted as prospects, to name a few, and he was also among league leaders in defensive box plus minus. Now, the important thing for him will be knowing when to sell out for blocks and contests and when to keep himself in position to finish possessions on the glass or stick to his position and help. That's an important piece to this role, but he has made progress, and a lot of it should come with reps and just learning what he can and can't get away with as a young big. He's also capable of playing passing lanes, but more so providing nail and gap help. He moves well enough on the perimeter that he can stunt and dig and cat and mouse and also get out the shots, and I love some of the flashes he had, peel switching and finding where he needed to be next. So the pieces to occupy other team defensive roles are also there. Overall, the combination of movement, scheme versatility, and rim protection at either the 5 or the 4 spot depending on the context make him an easy sell as an NBA defender, and even with some other questions, he's someone that teams should confidently be able to build with defensively in the future. Now, we touched on it a few times on the defensive end, but Sarr's athleticism is a pretty big part of who he is as an offensive player as well, especially in the open floor, and he converted at a high clip at about 1.5 points per possession, at times turning defense into offense. Occasionally he showed he could take it off the rim and at least get it to the timeline before getting it to a guard, and in more limited flashes he did even more than that, taking it to the rim. Now, the handle will need to take more strides before that's a huge part of his game, but it is there in some fashion and ahead of what some similar prospects in the past were able to do at the same age. And in any situation that likes to push pace or has other defensive playmakers, I'd expect this part of his game to shine a little bit more.
Jako loše, bili su igri i dobro izgledali sve tamo do završnice trećeg.
Težak šut za 3, promašio je to. Ako sam dobro vidio na brzinu, mislim da je to bio
defensively, getting some stops, although
In more of a half-court setting offensively, there is a level of upside that exists in a couple ways, some we'll get to later on, but the most tangible is what he can do as a play finisher. Often operating out of pick and roll or playing in the dunker spot extended, he has the tools to finish above the rim and provide some vertical spacing, and this should pop more as he plays with NBA level creators too. Now, he is definitely a better roller than he is a screener right now, but the amount of trapping and hedging that was done to Perth led to a ton of touchscreens, so that's not completely on him when you watch all of his film, but improvement there will be mostly frame related. And then as a roll man, he'll need to continue to work on some of his control and ability to play comfortably off 2 and finishing more consistently in certain spots. More on that later, but in terms of a role that's most easily projectable for him in the league, this is it. I actually was pretty impressed by what he showed as a passer, primarily in those short roll situations, but some on dribble handoffs and on the interior as well. Even in his limited usage, he showed that he could make quick decisions, read the defense on the fly, and process where rotations were headed pretty well. Now, we're probably not talking eventual playmaking hub or anything like that, but there's a base to be able to keep things flowing, running delays and DHOs, add value on those all-important roles, and then also be able to make plays off of his own offense, be it a drive or a shooting opportunity, especially as that pace continues to progress.
Sarr could find it too little.
Prema Sarru, backstep 1.
Now, one of the bigger questions or swing skills for Sarr is in his three-point shot. It's not something that needs to be answered right away, but it is going to decide a lot of who he is and where he'll be able to fit in best offensively. He shot about 29% from 3 on under 2 attempts a game, but has made significant progress from his days with OTE. He was much better from the free throw line this year with more attempts and lights out from the mid-range and the opportunities that he got there, which were everything from short roll looks to even some fadeaways. Now, mechanically, he can be a bit rigid at times with a heavily tucked elbow and occasionally early loaded wrist, and the footwork will need some more consistency, but I think all the pieces are workable. The fact that he has shot it with at least some volume doesn't guarantee anything coming to fruition, but it makes it much more plausible than those who might just show it in workouts or only in a high school setting. And being respectable here would not only allow him to play the floor with more ease and add versatility, but maybe more importantly would allow him to fully use his speed and flashes he's shown as a driver against more like-sized players or traditional 5s, in that sort of same way we see guys like Chet, Wemby, Jaren Jackson, and others take advantage. It's definitely a swing skill, but if you buy him becoming passable as a shooter, and I'm optimistic he'll get there even if it takes a few years, it's hard not to like what that player will ultimately be in the NBA.
They missed their first 7 threes in game 1. Put them on the back foot as Milner outside. Sarr works on Humphries. Tough shot under pressure.
Sarr. Sarr se diže, Sarr.
Walking out in red eye, and he said to me, "Oh, did you leave out near the airport?" Hey, I went to City. 0.6. They get it to Sarr on cue, and he fills it up.
Sudelen, Mill e Durant.
Sarr napada, ide do kraja, Sarr još jednom, kako je elegantno. Sarr će to zaključati.
Zaista, rekao bih, slatka serija.
Kod lopte Sarr koji je I dalje na parketu, Sarr izvrsno.
Many of the rest of his questions and improvement areas are in some way related to getting stronger and continuing to add to his frame. The immediate focus always goes to post-ups and banging inside, and that is important, but just maintaining position while defending drives will be as well. Now, he wasn't posted up nearly as much as you might expect. Pretty much every possession that I saw, you're also seeing, but it's apparent he'll need to find solutions here and probably be schemed around in some capacity. Not that it's super common in the league today either, but players are bigger, stronger, faster, and teams are pretty good at exploiting spots they think they have a mismatch. Now, the rebounding piece is another that he'll need to make a concerted effort at improving, and it comes back to the strength factor in a lot of ways too. I spent a good amount of time looking at this specifically, and he does do a pretty consistent job at finding a body and boxing out. He's far from lazy and he has the tools, but it didn't always yield the best results, whether it was conditioning related at times or trying to block shots or whatever else. Physically, the numbers reflected that too. Finishing possessions is definitely a team effort at the end of the day, but an anchoring a defense is fairly high on the list of responsibilities, so this will be a point of emphasis as well.
Golden Gate hoće ući. Sasvim sam siguran neće ovo gol.
Here in the third quarter for the first time in the game. Trey Kell fires unsuccessful.
Unsuccessful. Loose ball. Wagstaff comes up with it. 7 seconds. Usher.
And as we alluded to it earlier, another one of his primary focuses will be improving as a finisher, specifically against contact and in the half court. There's a level of control and just upper body flexibility he hasn't quite found yet, and in addition to that, he doesn't have much of a push shot or a hook to finish more cleanly away from the rim. Now, some of this is purely strength related to be able to create better angles and ultimately help with some of the shot selection too, but it's something I noticed, and though the numbers aren't super alarming, it shows up there as well.
You know it will when it's a Tassie game. Sarr back in.
Plus 3 napad za Pers Wildcats.
Isaac Humphries denies him. Sarr wins it back.
Looking like, oh man, oh, what a move.
And tying all this together, there are some big picture questions in what role or roster context he could fit best into if he's not physical enough defensively at the 5 and can't shoot well enough to be the 4 in a lineup without a stretch 5. Now, it's not the thing that I think will keep him from making an impact or even seeing the floor early, given he is so young and already so good on defense. But that's a big question for him in a class where almost every top prospect has at least one. Alex Sarr in all likelihood will land in the top 3 on draft night and may have the best shot at going number 1. I don't think there are any prospects in this class with clear-cut all-star potential, but by the numbers we're going to get a couple at least, and I think he has the best chance of delivering that impact, especially as someone who could fairly easily get into all defense convos. His outside shot and strength development will have almost all the say in whether or not that happens, but he should be a positive and essential defensive piece from the beginning, and those other areas we talked about will decide the rest of where he makes an impact as well. As for landing spots, I like Washington most, and if Toronto is able to keep their pick, they are my second favorite, especially with the idea that you could run him with Olynyk early on. After that, it's not the clearest in a lot of places, but I think Charlotte, Detroit, and Houston are all interesting for different reasons. There are a few comps for Sarr that I like depending on where things go with his game. Evan Mobley is one of them as a lanky big with similar 4-5 concerns, but one of the absolute best and most versatile defenders in the league and a solid offensive piece despite some high expectations there. Nick Claxton is another one that I like as an elite switch big and athlete, and then if the shot becomes a more featured part of his game, it could look more like a version of Jaren Jackson Jr. Now, everyone is unique and it'll take time, but I think those are some good references for who his game could resemble in the league. Alex Sarr's combination of movement abilities, defensive impact, and versatility, along with the upside to score both inside and out, make him one of the clear most valuable prospects.